The last year has been exceptional in terms of total lunacy occurring in video games. And I mean stuff that requires a spoiler warning. Crazy things you never expected, either narrative or mechanical, that when you come upon them and experience them, it blows your frickin' mind. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on gameranx, 10 holy shit gaming moments in recent games. Now I'm gonna repeat this because it might have sounded like a joke at the start due to the way I said it. This is a spoilerific video. Starting off with number 10, Death Stranding 2, the DHV's name. This game is just Hideo Kojima's id made manifest. Every weird random impulse in his head is up on this screen. There's just so many bizarre, baffling, ridiculous moments in this game. If I wanted to, I could just throw up the entire finale because it's just one holy shit moment after the other. But I think the part that really set our brains at gameranx off the most, it was a little bit before the big climactic final showdown, actually. I'm talking about the big events that begin after you link up all of Australia to the chiral network, where the actual bad guy plot is revealed that APAS, essentially Death Stranding's version of the Patriots, are the ones who revived Higgs and provided him with ghost mechs and encouraged the conflict that made the people of Australia willing to join the network. It seems like it's going to be a long PowerPoint presentation a la Metal Gear Solid 4, where the bad guys laboriously explain every minute detail of their sinister plot, but then something happens. Your mysterious benefactor, Charlie, appears at the beach and, well, you just gotta see it.
I will hold you and protect you.
It's an honest-to-God dance number where this guy shows up, stops everything dead in a song and dance. Completely changes the entire emotional direction of the scene. What starts off as sinister becomes laugh-out-loud hilarious as the true hero of Death Stranding, Die Hardman, reveals himself to be the real Charlie. Suddenly, he's a much more jovial fella than the first game, but that only makes his return all the sweeter. This is all ridiculous though, but to put a capper on things, we learn the true name of the DHV Magellan. You thought DHV stood for Deep Tar Hunting Vessel, but no, it's actually Die Hardman's vessel. Kojima, you son of a bitch, you have done it again. What do you say to this? Like, thank you for the gift of your genius, sir. You're a lunatic, and we love it.
That unity of body and soul.
Something else we would absolutely love and appreciate is if you click the subscribe button. In all seriousness, the vast majority of people watching right now are not subscribed, and it's so simple to change that and make our day better. That's right, we consider it a big solid and it helps us a ton. We hope it helps you find some stuff that you're interested in seeing. Thank you big time for clicking subscribe. Let's get back to the video. Moving on to number 9, Claire Obscure Act 3 Mayel. Shocking twists are this game's bread and frickin' butter. They are all over the place and each one is more devastating than the last. The whole goal of the titular Expedition 33 and all previous expeditions are to hunt down and eliminate the Paintress, this godlike being that's slowly but surely killing everybody if left unchecked. You eventually finish her off and return back to Lumiere as conquering heroes, but of course the story wasn't going to end there. There's going to be some final twist at the night before everything wraps up. I don't think anybody anticipated exactly what that meant though. It gets just nuts. After the Paintress dies, the truth of the world is revealed. None of it's real. The entire story is actually a drama about a family of supernatural painters who are able to create worlds inside of their paintings.
And this world, a mirror, painted by your mother, the paintress, to stave off her grief.
This world is simply one created by Verso, the brother that died in a house fire. One of the members of your party, in fact, Mayel, is part of the family, and in the real world, the world of the mystical painters, she is horribly scarred because of that specific fire. The truth is that this painted world is an escape for the mother, who was actually the paintress, and Mayel, who refused to give up on the world, their lost child and or brother, or whatever. They didn't want to give up on the world that he created. It's a lot to take in. It completely upends the entire plot of the game up to that point, which makes it divisive to some. Some people really hate the direction this game goes in the third act. up to and including the ending, which does not offer easy answers about the whole bizarre dilemma. For me, I respect the ambition, and I think reframing the entire story as this extremely weird personal tragedy adds a lot of gravity to the situation, and it makes the setting so much stranger and more intriguing. Regardless of how you think about Act 3, it's a bold choice that feels distinctly French. I mean, look at all this frickin' black and white. I feel like if I look at this too long, I'm gonna suddenly just have a beret, a baguette, and one of those cigarettes in one of those black tube things. I don't know what those are called. There is a word for them. I don't know what they are. They're very French, though. Moving on to number 8, Hollow Knight Silksong's Act 3. Clair Obscur is not the only game last year with a shocking Act 3 twist. In Silksong's case, it's almost more surprising though, because if you played the first game, you go into the standard ending kind of thinking you know what you expect. There's a boss at the top of the tower that's causing the haunting of Farloom, and Hornet has to stop it. Just killing it isn't enough, exactly like in the first game. You have to find a secret method to put a stop to this thing for good. So you do that, you go fight the final boss, you expect that things will play out the same way as in Hollow Knight, right? For the most part, I expected a second boss, and that's not all we got. We got way more. The secret ending is cataclysmic. It shows the entire kingdom covered in encroaching darkness. Nothing else seems to happen, no other bosses. Is this just like a bad ending or what? So I guess it's kind of it then, right? Kind of a disappointing true ending, but whatever. Then the game drops you back off at the title screen. That's when you realize something's up. It's not the same title screen. And if you open the save game screen, your save file is covered in inky black goop. Loading the save causes the game to continue where the ending left off, which is Act 3 of the game. An entire new chunk of the game to explore with many new bosses, many events, many side quests to complete. It's completely insane. Throwing a kinda secret third act in is Team Cherry's victory lap. There's nothing left for them to prove at this point, but they're still gonna put in way more effort than necessary because of course they are. There's so much stuff in Act 3, it completely changes the makeup of the kingdom, tons of NPCs in it, there's so many new bosses that are some of the best and most challenging in the game. Act 3 of Silksong is also maybe a little controversial, maybe not necessarily as controversial as Clair Obscur, although it's pretty hardcore. It's hard as balls, but man is it a head trip when you first reach it. And number 7 is Dispatch, when the Shroud finally appears. For a Telltale-style story-driven adventure game, the actual story of Dispatch is pretty light for the runtime. Not even complaining. The game's focus on building up the relationships between characters is the right choice, and putting the actual superhero plot on the back burner a bit, also the right choice. The game's antagonist, the Shroud, is revealed in the first episode, but we don't really see him do anything, and it goes on that way for the next 5 or so chapters. It's long enough to make you either forget about him or at least stop thinking about him as a serious threat. I mean, by the 6th episode out of 8, he really has barely been a presence. So when he finally does reveal himself at the end of episode 6, in a literal jump scare moment, it's reinvigorating. Shit is about to get real. The episode ends on a serious cliffhanger with probably the best character in the game's life hanging in the balance, and from there it leads into the game's final 2 episodes with a renewed sense of purpose and forward momentum. It all builds up to what's easily one of the best climaxes in one of the Telltale or Telltale adjacent games. Just all good stuff, but the moment that it kicks off is when the Shroud appears on that camera footage like a slasher stalking his prey. It's a great moment, it pays off spectacularly in the episodes ahead, and it's stuff like this that makes Dispatch a cut above the average Telltale ripoff.
You trying yet? Or is this just a warm-up round?
And number 6 is Chronos the New Dawn's post-credits reveal. Trying to even attempt to explain the plot of Chronos makes Well, it makes you feel dumb. It's a fool's errand. It's all vague lore wrapped in a weirdo sci-fi premise. It's barely explained. And the actual central plot of the game basically has nothing to do with the reason why you're traveling in the first place. So much of this freaking game goes unexplained that I don't blame anyone for assuming the actual outbreak that ended up destroying humanity was never going to be explained. It sure doesn't seem like the game is interested in any of that, but by the time, well, alright. The actual conclusion is about identity and free will, rather than the whys and the hows of what's going on, so it seems like the actual inciting incident for the world-ending event was just never going to show up, at least, like I said, so it seems.
You need to stop this right now.
Stay out of my way!
The final moments of the game hit you with the big twist, and trying to explain it is gonna be some effort. There's you, the Traveler, then there's this other helmeted guy named the Warden, and a woman from the past named Veronica. Near the end of the game, you discover the Warden was another time traveler who had been captured in the past and was taken care of by this Dr. Veronica, who he formed an attachment with. He became self-aware because of it. That's another thing. Time travelers are just supposed to be like some kind of mindless drone, so this is a major complication. He knows that Veronica is gonna die along the rest of humanity, so he tries to save her by injecting her future consciousness into the body of a different traveler, which is your character. Are you confused yet? It doesn't get better. By the end of the game, the Warden goes nuts. You're forced to either kill him or spare him and let him escape through time with Veronica. If you kill him, you let the woman go, you open up a portal for her to travel through time back to the past. And while it seems like this is the way to escape the stable time loop, it seems like your characters are trapped in. The post-credit scene reveals it makes things worse. Traveling through the portal unprotected is what causes the change infection to start in the first place. She's patient zero, and you letting her go is the reason mankind is doomed.
Veronica? Hey, it's all right. What's going on?
I just didn't want to be.
The other ending isn't much better. It's stable time loops all the way down. It's a horror game, so there's no surprise that there's a downer ending, but this is a pretty dark twist even for this game, which is about as pitch black miserable as a horror game can get. I gotta give them credit though. I never thought the infection was gonna get explained, so kudos on that. It's weird too. And number 5, it's Deltarune, Mr. Tenna's grand entrance. Chapter 3 and 4 of Deltarune are just chock full of goofy moments that, I mean, you know what you're getting with Undertale and Deltarune, right? But there's also some surprisingly dark twists. But the moment I want to highlight here happens at the start of Act 3, when the antagonist of the chapter reveals themselves. It's truly a ridiculous moment where the dramatic scene that's going on is interrupted and we get this glorious FMV cutscene that's unlike anything else in the game up to this point. Completely insane. It kicks off a multimedia extravaganza of a chapter that's operating on a level of effort beyond anything else the game has shown us.
Coming straight from your house. Coming straight from your house. I mean, he's the one. I mean, the king of. Oh, he's groovy and never gloomy. You can't get this from an egg. The sensation of your screen. The show that makes you scream. See it with folks. Mr. Antenna's TV show.
It is absurd in the best possible way, and from here on out, it barely ever lets up with the goofy pre-rendered animation, the Aqua Teen Hunger Force explosions, and a whole lot of alternative gameplay styles that are, again, I need to emphasize, nothing like the rest of the game. The first 2 chapters of the game are great, but starting with Chapter 3, Deltarune really just starts running wild. Chapter 4 doesn't let up either. It has some completely nuts moments on its own, but this one little bit from the start of Chapter 3 is what sets the stage. And number 4 is Pokemon Legends ZA. I really like calling it ZA. Pokemon Legends ZA. Let's not get hung up on it, though. So as popular as the Pokemon series is, they rarely ever go that big with their finales. It's probably the most popular RPG series on the entire planet, but these games don't really do set pieces or big events. They're just not that ambitious, or at least most of the time they're not that ambitious. 2025's entry tries to do something a little different, and while it may not be the craziest thing in comparison to like the best conclusion of a Platinum game or something, what they managed to do with the conclusion of Pokemon Legends ZA is pretty nuts for a Pokemon game. Pokemon Legends ZA. Anyway, there's no beating around the bush here. Not even gonna try to bother explaining why anything is happening because I don't know. All that matters is that the central tower of Luminose transforms into a giant monster that you have to fight. The visual of this thing is ridiculous, and the final battle where you summon Zygarde and shoot it with a big ass cannon, it's so over the top. It's easily the most over the top ending to any Pokemon game. And while it's not on the level of the most insane thing to ever wrap up a game, for the low standards that Pokemon established, this is way more than anyone could have possibly expected. And number 3 is No, I'm Not Human, the Embrace the Inevitable ending. This entire game is so freaking weird, and therefore the endings are, of course. But out of all the ways the game, or existential nightmare as you may call it, out of all the ways it can end, this is the most baffling. So the basic premise of No, I'm Not Human is that the sun is getting hotter and doppelganger-like creatures known as visitors are crawling up out of the dirt and murdering people in their homes. For whatever reason, you have to invite these things into your home, or something bad will happen, and the core gameplay revolves around managing your time and testing people who come to your house seeking shelter. Some of them are normal. Well, maybe that's not the right word for the misshapen freaks that inhabit this world, but they're not going to kill you, and some of them are visitors. The basic goal is to simply survive until the situation ends, but there are various endings that you can trigger depending on the choices you make. They all send the story spiraling in random directions that seem to have nothing to do with the original premise. This one gets especially wild, and to unlock it, you need to dig through the dirt in your basement to eventually uncover an underground tunnel that leads to a hole. You can jump down into the hole, and it reveals an endless void with a giant cloud called Death, which teleports you to an idyllic version of your house where you can't do anything until the game just sort of stops. The ending seems to imply that you've actually been trapped in limbo, or maybe the entire thing is just abstract, I don't know. But it's super weird, and it seems to completely contradict the premise of the game and certainly some of the other endings. I don't think it really matters, though. It's just a really strange, uncomfortable game, and I don't think it's really supposed to have a central plot. It's like, it's video game jazz, man. It's meant to elicit complex emotions in a player. There's no definitive ending, no lore that can be easily digested, just a weird, fascinating game. And number 2 is the ritual in Silent Hill F, the standout moment, without question, for Silent Hill F. There's really nothing else that can go here. This is the moment where the game steps out of the shadow of the older games and becomes its own thing. Really disturbing thing. The entire first run through of the game is a cavalcade of WTF, mostly just the confusion about what's supposed to be happening. It's a dark story from the jump. But things get way more intense when the ritual begins and Hinako has to do some kind of ceremony before she and the Foxman are married. It starts off a little strange with her drinking burning liquid, but quickly escalates into full-on body horror, which is one of the most disturbing sequences in the entire Silent Hill series. The build-up to this is absolutely incredible. First, they show you this giant wolf arm, pretty weird. Then they're giving something Hinako to bite down on. That's where you're getting concerned when they get out this big ass blade and hand it to her and she saws off her own arm and replaces it with the bloodborne werewolf arm. Don't know what's happening at this point. They somehow find a way to make it worse when she cuts off a huge chunk of her own face and replaces it with a fox mask. Really stomach churning stuff. Really harrowing sequence that signals that the ending of this game is not going to be smiles and sunshine, at least not yet. Silent Hill F gets very dark very quick, and it only gets darker and more confusing from there. And finally, at number 1, Donkey Kong Bonanza's true enemy. No other reveal in 2025 was as hype as this one, especially if you're a longtime Donkey Kong fan. Nintendo has been killing it lately with their endings. Like Mario Odyssey had a super wild conclusion, but this game absolutely beat it in over-the-top madness. Up until the end of that game, it seems like the main guy is this goober called the Void King. He's okay as the bad guy. He's no King Cruel or K. Rool or whatever, or the Kremlings from Donkey Kong. People love that guy, but he's been missing in action since Donkey Kong 64 back in 1999. They brought him back for Smash Bros, but it's not the same. Anyway, by the final battle, final in quotes, by the time it's wrapping up against Void Kong, we're ready to accept this is how the game was ending. It's an appropriately challenging final boss, and for any normal game, this would be a perfectly fine way to wrap things up. But of course, it isn't any normal game, and Nintendo isn't just gonna leave things there. Right now, it seems like it's over, and then, after an 18-year absence, the big lizard himself, King Cruel, is back, and it only gets crazier from there. You travel to the planet core, which is apparently made of bananas, by the way. You fight all the classic enemies that have returned just for this last level. You chase Cruel to the surface. You finally have an epic showdown in New Donk City. If you don't think they could get more hype, they do. Cruel transforms into this full-on Dark Souls boss as the King of Rot, which is a name that would bring a tear to Miyazaki's eye. It is an incredible conclusion that ends the game on just the highest of high notes. It is amazing, and what better way to cap off this list? If you like this video, click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week. Best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription, so click subscribe. Don't forget to enable notifications, and as always, thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. Click join, become a member of the 1% Club, listen to the Falcon Show every Saturday. We'll see you next time right here on gameranx.